I'm staring at my reflection in the ladies' bathroom mirror, and I barely recognize myself. My mascara is smudged. There's a coffee stain on my white blouse that I don't remember getting. My hands won't stop shaking. 10 minutes ago, I was in that conference room. 10 minutes ago, I had evidence. Proof. 3 months of sleepless nights put together into a presentation that should have saved this company. Instead, Richard Holloway laughed at me. I gripped the edge of the sink so hard my knuckles turn white. The bathroom door swings open, and Jennifer from legal walks in. She sees me, freezes, then pretends she's just here to check her lipstick. I tell her not to say anything. My voice comes out sharper than I meant it to. She leaves without another word. Smart woman. I take a breath. Then another. Then I pull out my phone and open the voice recording I made of the entire meeting. Yes, it's probably illegal. Yes, I could get fired for it. But something told me this morning to hit record before walking into that room. Richard Holloway's voice plays back, dripping with attitude. He's asking if they should cancel a $2.3 billion merger because their junior analyst had a bad feeling. The laughter that followed. God, that laughter. I saved the recording to 3 different cloud accounts, then splash cold water on my face. When I look up again, the woman in the mirror isn't broken anymore. She's something else entirely. Dangerous. Let me back up. Let me tell you how this really started. Because the merger analysis? That wasn't the beginning. The beginning was 2 years ago when I first discovered what Richard Holloway really was. 2 years earlier, my first day at Holloway Industries, I was 26 years old and terrified. MBA from a state school, student loans that would take a decade to pay off, and an entry-level analyst position that barely covered my rent. But I was hungry, determined. I was going to prove myself. Richard Holloway gave a speech to all the new hires. Inspirational stuff about innovation and integrity and building the future together. He looked us all in the eye, shook our hands, made us feel like we mattered. I believed every word. For 6 months, I worked my butt off. 80-hour weeks. Weekends in the office. I analyzed markets, built financial models, found problems that saved the company millions. My boss loved me. Said I had a real future here. Then I found the file. It was an accident, really. I was looking for Q3 projections in the shared drive and clicked the wrong folder. Inside was another folder labeled Kingston Project, Confidential. Kingston was a company we'd bought the year before. Small tech startup. The purchase had been Richard's big success story. He bought them for cheap, took their patents, and their value had supposedly tripled. Except according to these files, that wasn't what happened at all. Kingston's CEO, a man named Michael Torres, had refused to sell. So Richard made up a sexual harassment scandal. Fake people claiming harassment. Made up evidence. He destroyed Torres's reputation so badly that the man lost his board's trust, his investors ran away, and Richard came in to buy the company for almost nothing. Torres had tried to fight back. Filed lawsuits. Went to the press. But Richard had connections. Lawyers. Money. The lawsuits disappeared. The press stories were buried. Torres ended up broke, divorced, and last I heard, working as a contractor in Arizona. I sat at my desk for 3 hours that night, reading through everything. Messages between Richard and his lawyer. Payments to the fake accusers. Plans to take down the target. I should have gone to the police. Should have told someone. Should have done something. But I was 26 with student loans and a career that was just starting. So I closed the file, cleared my browser history, and pretended I'd never seen it. That's the choice that's haunted me for 2 years. The choice that made me part of it. Until today, when Richard Holloway made his own mistake. He forgot that the people you embarrass don't always stay quiet. Sometimes they get even. The walkout. I leave the bathroom and head straight to my desk. People avoid looking at me. The whole office probably knows what happened by now. Sarah from HR will call me tomorrow for a wellness check. Maybe they'll suggest I take some time off. Maybe they'll just fire me quietly and make me sign papers saying I won't talk. But I'm not going to give them the chance. I log into my computer and start downloading files. Not everything, I'm not stupid. Just my own work. My research. and a few other things from that Kingston folder that I'd saved 2 years ago and never told anyone about. The download bar moves across my screen. 47%, 58%, 73%. My desk phone rings. I ignore it. An email pops up from Richard asking me to come see him. I delete it. 92%, 98%. Complete. I take out my external drive, drop it in my purse, and look around my cubicle one last time. 2 years of my life in motivational posters I never believed, and a coffee mug that says world's best analyst. I leave the mug.
Take the drive.
Walk out. No one stops me. I'm in my car, key in the ignition, when my phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number says the person saw what happened in that meeting. That I was right about everything. That we should talk. It's signed MT. MT, Michael Torres. My blood goes cold. How does he know? How is he even? Another text comes through. He's been watching Holloway for 2 years. Waiting for his moment. Looks like I'm waiting for mine too. Coffee tomorrow at 10 in the morning at Brewster's on 5th.
Come alone.
I should delete these texts. Block the number. Go home and forget this whole day ever happened. Instead, I type back that I'll be there. Because here's what Richard Holloway doesn't know. What nobody in that company knows. The Titan Tech merger I tried to warn them about? I didn't just discover those problems. I created them. The coffee meeting. I barely sleep that night. Every time I close my eyes, I see Richard's face. That smug smile. That show he put on for his executives. Not a feeling, Richard. A certainty. Because I built the trap you're about to walk into. Let me explain how this works. How you destroy a company from the inside without anyone ever knowing it was you. It started 8 months ago. I'd spent 2 years watching Richard Holloway destroy people. Michael Torres was just the first. There were others. A female VP who complained about harassment, suddenly fired for bad performance. A whistleblower who found money problems, paid off and silenced with legal papers. A competitor who was doing well, mysteriously investigated by the government until his company fell apart. Richard was untouchable. He had lawyers and fixers and enough money to bury anyone who came at him directly. So I decided to come at him sideways. I started researching Titan Tech 8 months ago, when rumors of the merger first came up. On paper, they looked perfect. Fast-growing tech company, good revenue, strong leadership. Exactly the kind of purchase that would make Richard look like a genius. But I dug deeper. Called in favors from old classmates in Hong Kong and Shanghai. Paid a private investigator out of my own pocket to trace the subsidiary companies. And I found the cracks. Titan Tech's growth was built on debt. Huge debt tied to Chinese real estate bonds that were already showing signs of trouble. The subsidiary companies weren't real businesses. They were fake companies designed to hide the debt until after the merger closed. The beautiful thing? It was all legal. Sketchy as hell, but legal. Titan Tech hadn't broken any laws. They just built a house of cards and hoped no one would notice until they'd cashed out. So I did 3 things. First, I made sure Richard and his team saw only what they wanted to see. I knew how background checks worked at Holloway Industries, surface-level analysis, rubber stamp approvals, everyone afraid to question the CEO's vision. So when early reports on Titan Tech crossed my desk, I made small edits. Nothing obviously fake. Just highlighting the positive data, burying the concerning details and footnotes and appendices that I knew no one would read. Second, I started building my own analysis. The real analysis. The one that showed exactly how the merger would fail. I worked on it at home, on my personal laptop, during nights and weekends. 3 months of research that I planned to present at exactly the right moment. And third, and this was the risky part, I reached out to someone who could speed up Titan Tech's collapse. Her name was Victoria Lansing, investment specialist, corporate raider. Some people called her a vulture. Others called her a genius. She made her fortune buying broken companies, taking them apart, and walking away rich while everyone else burned. I'd found her through research on the Kingston purchase. Turns out she'd been one of Torres's potential investors before Richard destroyed him. She'd lost money on that deal. She remembered. I sent her an encrypted email 3 months ago asking if she was interested in being ready when Holloway Industries made the worst purchase in their history. She responded within an hour asking for more details. We met at a hotel bar. I showed her my research on Titan Tech. She showed me how she could make the collapse happen faster by quietly betting against the Chinese bonds that held up Titan Tech's subsidiaries, by spreading carefully worded concerns to the right investors, by applying pressure in ways that were technically legal but totally devastating. She asked me why I was doing this. Revenge? I corrected her. Justice. Richard Holloway destroys people for profit. It was time someone destroyed him back. She smiled and said she liked me. Let's burn his company down. We shook hands. The deal was simple. I'd sabotage the merger from the inside. She'd attack from the outside. When Holloway Industries collapsed, she'd buy up the valuable assets for almost nothing, and I'd get 15% of the profit plus the satisfaction of watching Richard lose everything. But I needed one more thing to make it work. I needed to present my findings in a way that Richard would ignore. I needed him to laugh at me, dismiss me, publicly embarrass me in front of witnesses. Because when this company crashed, I needed everyone to remember that I'd tried to warn them. I needed to be the victim, not the villain. So this morning, I'd walked into that conference room knowing exactly what would happen. I'd pitched my findings in a way that sounded paranoid, used language that was too technical, came across as young and inexperienced and easy to dismiss. And Richard had played his part perfectly. Now everyone would remember. Emma tried to warn us.
Emma was right.
Emma was the only one who saw it coming. When the lawsuits started flying, when the government came knocking, when employees and investors demanded to know who was responsible, I'd be the hero who tried to stop it. My phone alarm goes off. 9:30 in the morning. Time to meet Michael Torres. I get to Brewster's Coffee at 9:45. Order a black coffee, I won't drink. Sit in the corner booth where I can see the door. Michael Torres walks in at exactly 10. He's older than his photos, mid-40s now, with gray in his hair that wasn't there 2 years ago. He's wearing jeans and a flannel shirt. Nothing like the tech CEO he used to be. He spots me right away, walks over without ordering anything. He sits down across from me and says I look younger than he expected. I tell him he looks older. He laughs, a bitter sound.
Yeah, well.
Getting destroyed by Richard Holloway ages you fast. He leans back and explains he's been watching that company for 2 years, waiting for Richard to make a mistake big enough that he could strike back. Then yesterday, he got a tip from someone on the inside that a junior analyst just tried to stop a terrible merger and got publicly embarrassed for her trouble. I ask who his inside source is. He says it's someone who hates Richard almost as much as he does. They're everywhere in that company if you know where to look. He studies me closely and asks if I'm a genuine hero who tried to save the company, or something more interesting. I take a sip of my coffee, buying time, trying to decide how much to tell him. I ask what he wants. He says he wants Richard Holloway's head on a platter, metaphorically speaking. But he's a realist. He already tried the legal route, tried the press, tried everything. Richard has too much protection, too much money, too many friends in high places. I ask, so what then? He says he needs someone on the inside when the company starts falling apart. Someone who can feed him information. Someone who can make sure that when everything collapses, Richard doesn't manage to get out of it like he always does. He asks if that's me. He says he thinks I'm either the perfect person for this or the most naive analyst in corporate America. Which one is it? This is the moment. The choice that determines everything. I could lie. Tell him I was genuinely trying to save the company. Play the innocent victim. Walk away from this conversation and let my plan with Victoria go forward without complications. Or I could take a risk. Trust him. Bring him into the revenge I've been planning for months. I say quietly that the merger's going to fail in 6 days. The Chinese bonds that Titan Tech is tied to are about to collapse. When they do, Titan Tech goes under. And they'll drag Holloway Industries down with them. He says I sound very certain about the timeline. I tell him I am, because someone's making sure those bonds collapse on schedule. Understanding shows on his face. I didn't just discover the merger problems. I'm causing them. I explain not directly. I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm just working with someone who recognized the same opportunities one did. He says her name. Victoria Lansing. I don't confirm or deny. My silence is answer enough. Michael leans back, a slow smile spreading across his face. Emma right. You beautiful, devious genius. You're not trying to save Holloway Industries. You're destroying it from the inside. I tell him Richard destroyed him. He's destroyed others. He was going to keep destroying people until someone stopped him. He asks if I decided that someone was me.
I say someone had to.
We sit in silence for a moment. Then Michael says he wants in. I ask in on what? He says on my revenge. My plan. Whatever happens when that company falls.
His voice gets hard.
Richard Holloway took everything from him. His company. His reputation. His marriage. He made him into a warning story. So yes, he wants in. He wants to watch Richard lose everything, and he wants to help make it happen. I ask what he can offer. He says information. Connections. He still has friends in the industry who remember what Richard did to him. People who'd love to see him fall. He pulls out his phone. Plus, he's been collecting evidence on Richard for 2 years. Things that aren't quite illegal but are definitely wrong. Things that, in the right situation, could destroy what's left of his reputation after the company collapses. I think about this. About adding another person to the plan. Another thing that could go wrong. But Michael Torres has something I don't have. A clear reason to hate Richard Holloway. If things go bad, if the authorities start investigating, Michael's motivation is obvious. Mine is hidden. I explain the deal. In 6 days, Titan Tech collapses. When it does, Holloway Industries will panic. Stock price crashes. Richard starts looking for someone to blame. That's when Michael goes public with his story. Reminds everyone what Richard did to him. Makes him the villain in a much bigger story than just a failed merger. He asks what else. I tell him he helps me document everything that happens in those 6 days. Every decision Richard makes. Every attempt to cover things up. Every lie he tells investors and employees. We build a case that he knew the merger was bad and did it anyway. Criminal carelessness. Maybe fraud if we're lucky. He asks about my timeline. I pull out my phone and show him a document. Day 1. Chinese bonds start collapsing. Titan Tech stock drops. Day 2. Merger concerns go public. Holloway Industries stock starts falling. Day 3. Richard tries to back out of the merger, but the contracts can't be broken. Day 4. Financial press starts digging into Richard's past deals, including Kingston. Day 5. Michael's story goes public. Employees start panicking. Day 6. Everything comes crashing down. He asks where I fit in all this. I explain I'm the analyst who tried to warn them. The one person who saw it coming. When the government comes knocking, when investors file lawsuits, I'm the witness who proves Richard knew the risks and ignored them. Michael grins and says I'm going to testify against him. I say eventually. But first, I'm going to watch him suffer. We shake hands. The revenge plan is growing, and I'm starting to feel like I'm losing control of it. But maybe that's okay. Maybe Richard Holloway deserves to be destroyed by an army, not just one angry analyst. Michael says one more thing as he stands to leave. Be careful. Richard didn't get this far by being stupid. If he figures out what I'm really doing, he'll destroy me faster than I can blink. I tell him to let Richard try. But as I watch Michael walk out of the coffee shop, a cold feeling settles in my stomach. Because he's right. Richard Holloway has destroyed everyone who's ever come at him. What makes me think I'll be any different? The pretense. 4 days until Titan Tech collapses, and I'm sitting in Richard Holloway's office pretending to be sorry. Richard's voice is warm now. Fatherly. The same voice he uses when he's about to fire someone but wants them to think it's their idea. He says he's glad I agreed to meet with him. He wanted to check in after our difficult conversation yesterday. I keep my voice soft.
Defeated.
I tell him I appreciate that. I think I let my emotions get the better of me. He was right. I was scared of the change, and I let that fear turn into paranoia. His face relaxes. He's glad I can see that. I'm a talented analyst. One of the best they have. But talent without judgment is dangerous. I say I understand. I'm sorry I wasted everyone's time. He says it's water under the bridge. In fact, he has a new project for me. Something that plays to my analytical strengths, but keeps me focused on the present instead of imagining problems that don't exist. He slides a folder across his desk. Inside is a boring assessment of their Q4 predictions. Busy work. A way to keep me occupied. And out of the way. Perfect. I thank him and say I won't let him down. He says he knows I won't. He stands up, signaling the meeting is over. Oh, and Emma? Let's keep what happened in that conference room between us, okay? No need to gossip with the other analysts about internal disagreements. Translation, don't tell anyone I was right, or you'll regret it. I say, of course, sweetly. I walk out of his office with the busy work folder, and I head straight to the bathroom where I text Victoria that he thinks I've backed down. Everything's going as planned. Her response is immediate. Day 1 starts in 96 hours. Am I ready? Am I ready? I've been planning this for 8 months. I've committed crimes, or at least ethical violations that would end my career if anyone found out. I've worked with corporate raiders and vengeful former CEOs. I've sabotaged a multi-billion-dollar merger that will cost hundreds of people their jobs. Am I ready to watch it all burn? I type back yes. Let's finish this. The next 4 days blur together in a nightmare of normalcy. I show up to work, smile at coworkers, pretend to work on Richard's busy work project, go home, can't sleep, repeat. But behind the scenes, everything's moving. Victoria's team is betting against the Chinese bonds. Michael's preparing his public statement. My evidence files are backed up in 6 different locations, some physical, some digital, all impossible to trace back to me. On day 3, I get a call from Jennifer in legal. She asks if I have a minute. I say sure, what's up? She says she just wanted to apologize. For the conference room thing. For not backing me up. She sounds genuinely uncomfortable. She's been thinking about it, and some of my concerns were valid.
She should have said something.
Too little, too late, Jennifer. But I keep my voice warm. I appreciate that. Really. But Richard was right, I was overthinking it. The merger's going to be great. She says, yeah, probably. But she doesn't sound convinced. Listen, if I ever want to grab drinks and talk, she's around. I thank her and say I'll let her know. She's scared. She's realized that I might have been right, and now she's trying to get on my good side before everything collapses. Smart woman. On day 4, the Asian markets open and the first piece falls. The collapse. I'm watching CNBC in my apartment when the news breaks. 4:47 in the morning Pacific time. Breaking news from Hong Kong. Major Chinese real estate developer defaults on bond payments, sending shockwaves through Asian markets. My phone buzzes. Victoria texts that it's beginning. The news anchor continues. This is particularly concerning for Western companies with exposure to these bonds. Analysts are scrambling to figure out which portfolios are most at risk. I make coffee. Toast that I won't eat. Watch the numbers scroll across the bottom of the screen as the Shanghai market drops 3%, then 4, then 5. By 6 in the morning, my phone is blowing up with messages from coworkers. Everyone's waking up to the news. Everyone's suddenly very concerned about Chinese real estate exposure. Everyone's starting to wonder about Titan Tech. I don't respond to any of them. Instead, I shower, dress in my best suit, and head to the office. When I walk in at 7:30, the place is chaos. People clustered around computer screens. Phone calls. Urgent conversations. And through the glass walls of the executive conference room, I can see Richard and his leadership team in an emergency meeting. Sarah from HR spots me and asks if I've seen the news. I say yeah about the Chinese bonds. I saw. She asks if we have exposure to that. Should we be worried? I tell her I'm sure Richard and the team are handling it. But Sarah's not stupid. She remembers the conference room meeting. She's putting pieces together. My merger analysis mentioned something about Chinese debt structures, didn't it? I tell her I'm really not the person to ask about this. I give her an apologetic smile and head to my desk. The morning crawls by. At 10, Richard's assistant sends an email to everyone. Town hall meeting at 2 this afternoon. Attendance required. This is it. Richard's going to try to calm everyone down. Tell them everything's fine. That the Chinese bond situation doesn't affect us. He's going to lie, and I'm going to be there to record every word. At 1:55, the entire company crams into the main conference room. There aren't enough seats. People stand along the walls, anxious energy filling the space. Richard walks in at 2 sharp, looking calm and confident. But I can see the tension in his jaw. The way his smile doesn't quite reach his eyes. He tells everyone he knows they're concerned about this morning's news from Asia. He wants to address those concerns head-on. He clicks to his first slide, a graph showing Holloway Industries' stable stock price. First, he wants to be clear, their company is strong. Their basics are solid. And while they're watching the situation in Asian markets, they have no direct exposure that would seriously hurt their operations. Lie number 1. We're about to merge with a company that has huge exposure. Second, regarding the Titan Tech merger, this deal remains sound. Their background check was thorough. They're confident this purchase will benefit everyone in this room. Lie number 2. I'm recording this on my phone in my pocket. Every word. Someone raises their hand. David from operations. He's heard concerns that Titan Tech might have exposure to these bonds. Can Richard address that specifically? Richard's smile tightens just slightly. Titan Tech's financials were reviewed by 3 separate auditing firms. Any exposure they have is well within acceptable risk levels. Lie number 3. He says he understands people are nervous. Market ups and downs are always unsettling. But he's been doing this for 20 years, and he can tell them this is exactly the kind of moment when smart companies make smart moves. They're not backing down. They're moving forward. The room erupts in applause. But it's nervous applause. Uncertain. As people file out, I catch Jennifer's eye. She looks pale. She whispers that we need to talk. Privately. We meet in a coffee shop 3 blocks away. Jennifer orders a double espresso and downs half of it before speaking. She asks me to tell her the truth. Is the merger going to fail? I take a careful sip of my own coffee and ask what makes her think that. She says because she's not an idiot. She remembers my analysis. And now Chinese bonds are collapsing, and Richard's doing his everything is fine routine, which is what he always does right before everything goes to hell. She leans forward. She has a mortgage. 2 kids in private school. She can't afford to go down with this company if it's sinking. This is the moment I've been waiting for. The moment when Richard's own people start jumping ship. I tell her I can't tell her what to do. But if I were her, I'd update my resume.
Soon.
Her face goes white. It's that bad? I explain the merger isn't going to happen. And when it falls apart, there's going to be fallout. Lawsuits. Investigations. Government inquiries. She's in legal. She knows what that means. She whispers a curse and pulls out her phone. She needs to call her husband. I put my hand on hers and tell her to wait. Don't tell anyone we had this conversation. And don't panic publicly. Just quietly prepare. Okay? She nods, already distracted, already planning her exit. As I watch her leave, I feel a twinge of something. Guilt? Satisfaction? I'm not sure anymore. These are real people with real lives, and I'm about to blow up their world. But then I remember Michael Torres. All the other people Richard destroyed, without a second thought.
This isn't about them.
This is about him. My phone buzzes. Michael texts that the stock's starting to move. Down 3% in after-hours trading. People are getting nervous. I text back that it's good. Let them be nervous. Tomorrow's going to be worse. The unraveling day 2 of the collapse, and Holloway Industries stock opens down 8%. I'm at my desk at 6 in the morning, watching the market. Around me, the office is filling up early. Everyone's too anxious to sleep in. People huddle around computers, watching their stock options disappear in real time. At 7:30, Richard calls another emergency meeting. This time, just senior staff and analysts. I'm included, probably because he needs all hands on deck to figure out what's happening. Or maybe because some part of him remembers that I warned him this would happen. Richard's voice is tight, controlled. But I can see the panic creeping in around his edges. Titan Tech's stock dropped 15% yesterday.
Their stock is following.
They need to understand what's happening, and they need to control the story. Someone mutters that the story is pretty clear. Chinese bonds are toxic, and they're about to merge with a company that's drowning in them. Richard snaps that it's not confirmed. Titan Tech's exposure is within normal limits. I raise my hand. Every eye in the room turns to me. I tell Richard the first hate to bring this up, but in my analysis 3 days ago, I flagged Titan Tech's subsidiary companies as being heavily tied to Chinese real estate bonds. That was one of my primary concerns. The room goes silent. Richard's face turns red. He reminds me we discussed this. My analysis was overly cautious. I ask if it was. I pull out my laptop and project my original presentation onto the conference room screen. Because according to my research, Titan Tech's subsidiaries hold about $800 million in bonds from the exact developers that are now defaulting. Gasps around the room. Richard's voice is dangerous now, asking where I got that number. I tell him public filings. It's all there if you know where to look. I click to the next slide, a detailed breakdown of Titan Tech's debt structure. I presented this to him 3 days ago, and he told me I was being paranoid. Jennifer from legal is staring at me with wide eyes. David from operations looks sick. Richard stands up slowly. He tells everyone to get out. Except me. The room clears in seconds. People practically trip over themselves to escape. When we're alone, Richard closes the door carefully. Too carefully. He asks what I'm doing. I tell him I'm trying to help the company understand what's happening. He says that's nonsense. 3 days ago, I was apologizing, admitting I was wrong. And now suddenly I have detailed debt structures that their background check team missed? What's my game? I say no game. Just good research. He laughs, but there's no humor in it. Good research. You know what I think? I think you wanted this merger to fail. I think you've been sabotaging it from the beginning. My heart starts pounding, but I keep my face neutral. That's a serious accusation. He asks if it is. Because he's starting to wonder how Chinese bonds just happened to collapse right before their merger closes. That's awfully convenient timing for someone who opposed the deal. He's getting close to the truth. Too close. I tell him I'm just an analyst. I don't have the power to crash international bond markets. He says no. But I might have friends who do. He leans against the table and asks who I've been talking to. Who have I shared their private information with? I say no one. He doesn't believe me. This is getting out of control. I need to calm things down before he does something crazy. I tell him I understand he's under pressure. But attacking me isn't going to solve the real problem. Titan Tech is in trouble, and if we don't back out of this merger now, they're going to drag us down with them. He starts to say we can't back out. The contracts are signed. The penalties would be he stops himself. I finish for him. Huge. I know. That's why I tried to warn you before the contracts were finalized. He stares at me for a long moment. Then he says something that chills my blood. If he finds out I had anything to do with this, he will destroy me. Not just fire me. Destroy me. My career. My reputation. My life. Do I understand him? I say perfectly. He tells me to get out of his office. I gather my laptop and walk out on shaking legs. That didn't go according to plan. Richard's suspicious now. If he starts digging, if he finds the connection to Victoria or Michael, I need to move faster. I'm in my car in the parking garage, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to calm my breathing when my phone rings. Victoria. She says we have a problem without any greeting. I ask what kind of problem. Richard's lawyers are filing an emergency order to stop the merger. They're claiming Titan Tech lied about important things. Ask if they can do that. She says they can try. But here's the fun part. If they succeed, Titan Tech can sue them back for breaking the contract. Either way, both companies are going to be tied up in lawsuits for years. Stock prices will drop even further. I say that's actually perfect. She agrees it is. But it also means things are about to get very messy very fast. Richard's going to be desperate, and desperate people do stupid things. She pauses and asks how exposed I am. I tell her he's suspicious. Accused me of sabotage. She asks if he can prove it. I say not unless he finds her or Michael. And neither of them have left trails, right? She confirms none that lead back to me. But Emma? Her voice turns serious. If this gets too hot, I need to walk away. She can finish this without me. I say no. I'm seeing this through. She says it's my funeral and hangs up. I sit in my car for another 10 minutes just breathing. Then I call Michael. I tell him it's happening faster than we thought. Richard's fighting back. We need to go public with his story now, not in 2 days. He asks if I'm sure. The timing. I cut him off. The timing has to be now, while Richard's vulnerable. While everyone's already questioning him. I grip my phone tighter. Can he do it today? He says he'd need to contact the press, get his statement ready. I say his name firmly.
Today.
He's quiet for a moment. Then he says okay. He'll reach out to that reporter at the Journal. She's been wanting to do a piece on Richard for years. I tell him good. Make it count. By 3 p.m, the news breaks. Former CEO accuses Richard Holloway of fraud, conspiracy. The Wall Street Journal article is devastating. Michael holds nothing back, the fake scandal, the planted evidence, the systematic destruction of his company. And the timing, right in the middle of Holloway Industries' merger crisis, makes it look like a pattern of behavior. The stock drops another 12%. Day 5 and Richard Holloway's world is burning. I wake up to 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails, 43 text messages. The company is in free fall. I scroll through the news on my phone. TitanTech formally announced they're exploring legal action against Holloway Industries for trying to back out of the merger. The SEC has opened an investigation into both companies' financial reporting. 3 major investors have filed a class action lawsuit. And every single news outlet is running stories about Michael Torres, about Kingston, about Richard's pattern of destroying anyone who stands in his way. I get dressed and head to the office, even though I'm not sure there will be an office much longer. When I arrive, security is at the entrance. They're checking IDs, turning people away. The parking lot is half empty. People are abandoning ship. I make it to my desk. The floor is eerily quiet. Half the cubicles are empty. The ones that are occupied have people frantically updating resumes, making phone calls, packing up personal items in cardboard boxes. Jennifer from legal walks past me without making eye contact. She's carrying a box. She quit, I realize. She actually quit. My computer is still working, which surprises me. I log in and check my email. Hundreds of unread messages.
Panic.
Confusion. Anger. People demanding answers. People looking for someone to blame. And then I see it. An email from Richard, sent to all senior staff and analysts at 2 a.m. The subject line reads Emergency Meeting Mandatory Attendance, 9 a.m. I check my watch. 8:45. I grab my phone, make sure it's fully charged and recording, and head to the conference room. The meeting is smaller than before. Maybe 20 people. The executives look exhausted. Some of them look drunk. Richard sits at the head of the table, and for the first time since I've known him, he looks old, defeated. But when he sees me walk in, something flickers in his eyes. Rage. The meeting starts exactly at 9. Richard doesn't waste time with pleasantries. He tells us the company is in crisis. The merger is dead. TitanTech is suing them for breach of contract. The SEC is investigating. Investors are fleeing. The stock has lost 40% of its value in 5 days. Someone asks what they're going to do. Richard's jaw tightens. They're going to fight. They're going to prove that TitanTech deliberately misrepresented their financial position. They're going to show that this company did everything right, and they were the victims of fraud. I almost laugh. He's still trying to spin this. Still trying to make himself the victim. Then Richard's eyes land on me again. He says there's something else they need to discuss. There's been some concern about how information has been leaked to the press. About how certain analysts might have been working against the company's interests. My blood runs cold. He continues, saying he's asked IT to run a full audit of all employee communications, emails, file downloads, cloud storage access, everything. He's looking right at me when he says it. Several people around the table shift uncomfortably. They know what this means. They know he's looking for a scapegoat. I keep my face blank, neutral, but inside, my mind is racing. The files I downloaded, the external drive. My communications with Victoria and Michael. Did I leave a trail? Did I make a mistake? Richard asks if anyone has anything they'd like to share before the audit is complete. Any concerns about information security they'd like to bring forward voluntarily. The room is silent. I raise my hand. Every head turns toward me. Richard's eyes narrow. I tell him I have a concern about information security. He tells me to go ahead. I pull out my laptop and connect it to the conference room projector. My hands are steady now. No more shaking. This is it. This is the moment I've been building toward for 8 months. I open a folder on my desktop. Inside are documents. Lots of documents. I tell the room that 5 days ago, I presented an analysis of the Titan-Tech merger that was dismissed as paranoid and overly cautious. I was told I was imagining problems that didn't exist. I was humiliated in front of my colleagues. Richard starts to interrupt, but I keep talking. I say that everything I warned about has come true. The Chinese bonds collapsed. Titan-Tech's debt structure was exposed. The merger failed. And now this company is facing lawsuits and investigations because the leadership refused to listen. I click to the next slide. It's the original presentation I gave 5 days ago. Detailed, thorough, accurate. I tell them that I have documentation proving I presented this information before the merger contracts were signed. I have the voice recording of the meeting where I was laughed at. I have emails showing I tried to escalate my concerns. Richard's face is turning red. He tells me this isn't the time. I talk over him. I tell the room I also have documentation of something else. Something I discovered 2 years ago and have been holding on to ever since. I click to the next slide. It's the Kingston Project files. The room goes completely silent. I explain that 2 years ago, I accidentally discovered evidence that Richard Holloway manufactured a sexual harassment scandal to destroy Kingston's CEO, Michael Torres, so he could acquire the company for almost nothing. Fake accusers. Planted evidence. Systematic character assassination. The executives around the table look horrified. Some of them clearly had no idea. Richard stands up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. He tells me to shut up.
Right now.
I don't shut up. I tell them I have copies of communications between Richard and his lawyers. Payment records to the fake accusers. Plans to neutralize the target. Everything. I tell them I've already provided copies to the SEC, to the FBI, and to several journalists who are very interested in the story. Richard's voice is shaking now. He asks how I dare. I cut him off and tell him I dare because I watched him destroy innocent people for 2 years. I watched him ruin lives for profit. I watched him build an empire on fraud and intimidation. And I decided someone had to stop him. The room erupts. People shouting questions.
Some people were standing up.
One of the executives is on his phone, probably calling the company's lawyers. Richard is staring at me with pure hatred. He tells me I'm fired. Security will escort me out. He'll sue me for theft of confidential information. He'll destroy me. I smile at him. Actually smile. I tell him he's welcome to try. But he should know that everything I just showed them was obtained legally. Everything I've shared with authorities was shared through proper whistleblower channels. And everything I'm about to tell the press is documented and verifiable. I pack up my laptop, pick up my bag, and walk toward the door. As I'm leaving, I turn back and tell Richard one more thing. I tell him I didn't cause the Chinese bonds to collapse. I didn't make Titan-Tech lie about their finances. I didn't make him destroy Michael Torres. I just made sure everyone found out about it. Then I walk out. Security doesn't escort me.
They don't even try.
I think they're too confused about what just happened. I walk through the office, past the empty cubicles, past the people packing boxes, past the terrified assistants and paralyzed middle managers. I walk out the front door into the sunlight. My phone starts buzzing immediately. Victoria, Michael, news outlets, lawyers. I ignore all of them for now. I get in my car, drive to a park near my apartment, and sit on a bench overlooking the water. It's done. It's actually done. Richard Holloway's company is destroyed. His reputation is destroyed. Within days, probably hours, his entire empire will come crashing down. The investigations will expand. More victims will come forward. The lawsuits will multiply. And I'll be there to testify, to document, to make sure he doesn't weasel his way out like he's done before. 6 months later, the deposition room is cold and sterile. Fluorescent lights, gray walls, a table with my lawyer on one side, Richard's lawyers on the other. Richard isn't here. He's facing criminal charges now, so his lawyers advised him not to attend civil depositions. Smart move. The lawyer across from me is asking questions about my employment at Holloway Industries, about what I knew and when I knew it, about my communications with Victoria Lansing and Michael Torres. I answer every question honestly. I have nothing to hide anymore. Yes, I discovered evidence of Richard's fraud against Kingston 2 years before I acted on it. Yes, I researched Titan Tech's financial problems and recognized they could destroy Holloway Industries. Yes, I presented my findings in a way designed to be dismissed. Yes, I coordinated with Victoria Lansing and Michael Torres to ensure maximum damage when the company collapsed. The lawyer asks if I feel any remorse for the hundreds of employees who lost their jobs when Holloway Industries failed. I tell him I feel terrible for them. They were innocent. They deserved better leadership. But I don't feel remorse for bringing down Richard Holloway. The lawyer asks if I profited from the company's collapse. If I received money from Victoria Lansing. I tell him yes. I received my 15% as agreed. About $3.2 million after taxes. The lawyer asks if that was my motivation. Money. I tell him no. The money was nice, but that's not why I did it. He asks why then. I lean forward and tell him that 2 years ago, I discovered that my CEO was a criminal who destroyed innocent people for profit. I had a choice. I could stay silent and be complicit, or I could do something about it. I stayed silent for 2 years, and that choice haunted me every single day. So when I got a second chance, when the Titan Tech merger gave me an opportunity to stop him, I took it. The lawyer says that sounds like vigilante justice. I tell him maybe it is. But sometimes vigilante justice is the only kind available when the powerful protect themselves. The deposition ends. I walk out with my lawyer, who tells me I did well. The whistleblower protections should hold. The criminal prosecutors are building their case against Richard. The civil lawsuits will take years, but I'm protected. I thank him and walk out into the afternoon sun. My phone buzzes. A text from Michael Torres. He asks how it went.
I tell him it went fine.
1 more deposition down, probably a dozen more to go. He texts back that Richard's bail was revoked this morning. He's going to jail pending trial. The judge considered him a flight risk. I smile.
Good.
Michael asks if I want to grab coffee and celebrate. I tell him sure. Same place as before? Brewster's on 5th? He agrees. See you in 20. I drive to the coffee shop, the same corner booth, the same black coffee I won't drink. Michael arrives right on time. He looks better than he did 6 months ago. The gray in his hair is still there, but something else has changed. He looks lighter.
Free.
He sits down and tells me Richard's company officially filed for bankruptcy yesterday. Victoria bought the valuable patents and technology for pennies on the dollar. Just like we planned. I ask how much she made. He grins and says about $40 million after expenses. Which means I made $6 million total. Plus the $3 million I already got. $9 million. More money than I ever imagined having. Michael asks what I'm going to do with it.
I tell him I've been thinking about that.
I want to start a foundation. Something to help whistleblowers who don't have resources. People who discover corporate fraud but can't afford to fight back. He says that's a good use for it. I tell him I'm also thinking about going back to school. Getting a law degree. Maybe becoming a prosecutor. He laughs and says I'd be terrifying as a prosecutor. I tell him that's the idea. We sit in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Michael says something I've been waiting to hear. He tells me Torres Technologies is back. He's rebuilding his company. Different name, different investors, but same mission. And it's working. He's getting contracts. Making money. Earning back his reputation. I tell him that's wonderful. He says it wouldn't have been possible without me. Without what I did. I tell him what we did. This was never just me. He raises his coffee cup. To revenge? I raise mine. to justice. We clink our paper cups together and I realize something. I don't regret it.
Not any of it.
Yes, innocent people got hurt. Employees lost jobs. Shareholders lost money. There was collateral damage. But Richard Holloway destroyed people for 20 years. He ruined lives, bankrupted families, crushed anyone who stood in his way. And I stopped him. Not the police. Not the government. Not the press.
Me.
A 28-year-old analyst with student loans and a conscience. I finished my coffee, said goodbye to Michael, and walked back to my car. As I drove home, I thought about Emma Wright, the terrified 26-year-old who found that Kingston file 2 years ago and closed it. That Emma was afraid. Complicit.
Trapped.
This Emma is different. This Emma brought down a corrupt CEO. This Emma has $9 million and a plan to help others do the same. This Emma isn't afraid anymore. And if there are other Richard Holloways out there, other powerful men who think they're untouchable, they should be afraid. Because there are more people like me out there. People who are tired of staying silent. People who are willing to risk everything for justice. People who understand that sometimes the only way to beat a corrupt system is to become the architect of its ruin. I pulled into my apartment parking lot and sat in my car for a moment, watching the sunset. My phone buzzed one more time. An email from the U.S. Attorney's Office. The trial date for United States versus Richard Holloway was set. 6 months from now. I'd be there. Front row. Watching as everything I built came to its final conclusion. And when they asked me to testify, when they asked me to explain how I brought down one of the most powerful CEOs in America, I'd tell them the truth. I'd tell them that I was just an analyst who got tired of watching bad people win. So I made sure they lost. I got out of my car and walked into my apartment building, leaving Emma Wright, the complicit analyst, behind forever. Now I was Emma Wright, the whistleblower. Emma Wright, the witness. Emma Wright, who proved that one person with evidence and determination can bring down an empire. And I was just getting started.